Hi friends! Back in October and November, as many of you know, I hiked the Manaslu Circuit in Nepal. The Manaslu Circuit is a 110-mile trek around Mount Manaslu, the 8th highest peak in the world, and it's out in the Himalayas. Because this trek is so different than many of the other ones that I've done in the past, I wanted to take the time to make a video full of tips about hiking the Manaslu Circuit. This is mostly going to be tips about what to bring. It's not a packing list video, but if you are looking for information on what to bring with you, I think that this video will really help you. FYI that I went with a guiding company, Nepal Eco Adventures, so I did not have to get my own permits or get out to the Manaslu Circuit by myself. My guiding service came with a Jeep in order to get out to the trek. So if you're looking for those types of tips, I'm sorry I don't have them because I didn't plan it myself. And on that note, I think it's important to tell you, in case you don't know, that if you are a foreigner and you are going out to trek in Nepal, then you have to have a guide. So that could mean that you go with a guiding service like I did. That means that you could hire a private guide, but they have to be licensed. There are some options there, but you can't just show up and go by yourself. By law, which changed in, I want to say 2022 or 2023, you do have to have a guide. So I just personally chose to go with a guiding service. It just made it a lot easier, honestly. And if you are going with a guiding service, then most of them are located in the neighborhood of Tamil. So I would recommend staying in that neighborhood. It just makes it easy when you go over for your orientation, you go over for your Jeep pickup or whatever. I had a great experience with the company that I went with, so I would definitely recommend Nepal Eco Adventures if you are looking for a guiding company to go with. Okay, tip number 1, layers are your friend. You're gonna start down in the jungle at pretty low elevation, about 2,000 feet above sea level. And you're gonna climb way up into the Alpine at almost 17,000 feet. So obviously there's gonna be a big difference in the weather and the ecosystem from where you start and where you get to the top of your climb. So I would just say, bring a lot of layers. I was in shorts and a sun hoodie for the first several days. Another Coke for me today at tea time. It's hot out, so I don't want anything hot. And then by the time I got up to the top of Larke Pass, I was bundled up in all my clothes, in down pants, in a big puffy down jacket. I'm wearing all of my clothes. I was up there for too long, but I'm sure I'll warm up on the way down, right? Right? So I mean, I was really hot when the trek started. The first few days, I was super hot, super sweaty. And then, we got to the top of Larke Pass and it was windy and it was icy and it was snowy. So there's going to be a big difference in weather there. So just be prepared for all of those different things. Also, just to note that it was super dry while I was there. We really didn't see any rain, but apparently that is not always the norm, especially if you go in the spring. So just be prepared for rainy weather as well. Tip number 2, bring hand soap. You're gonna be staying in tea houses, most likely, which are little lodges in the small villages along the way. Look at this place, it's so pretty. And most of them, probably all of them, have sinks and running water, but they don't have public hand soap. So I would just recommend bringing along with you some hand soap, along with some hand sanitizer. I mean, you're gonna constantly wanna be using hand sanitizer, but it's really nice, after a day of hiking to actually be able to wash your hands and get all the grit off, especially before you have a meal. So yeah, bring some soap. And speaking of soap, Nepal is not the richest or most developed country. I can say many, many wonderful things about Nepal, but their infrastructure is not all there. And I was told that the discharge water from the sinks, from the showers, from the toilets I'm not sure if this is true, but what I was told is that that water basically goes straight into the ground, straight down to the river. So that being said, I think that the right thing to do is when you are bringing, if you are bringing like hand soap and shower products and whatnot, I think the right thing to do is to bring eco-friendly products. So I would just be cognizant that that water is just, it's not being cleaned, it's not being sent through sewage treatment. So just be conscious of that and be smart in the products that you choose to bring. I did not know that ahead of time. I wish that I would have. I just brought like my normal shampoo and conditioner, but I felt kind of bad every time I took a shower. So bring some eco-friendly products. And speaking of water, bring a water filter unless you want to be buying all of your water bottled, which I would not recommend because first of all, it gets expensive. Second of all, that's a lot of waste with the plastic bottles. I like the Sawyer Squeeze water filter. Do not make the mistake of bringing the mini. It's really slow. It's a big pain. Just get the normal size one. Really recommend the Sawyer Squeeze. It's what I use on all of my backpacking trips, and it got me through Nepal without getting sick. So thank you, Sawyer Squeeze. Food poisoning can be a big problem for foreigners in Nepal. So that is often due to tainted water or tainted food from the tainted water. So just be conscious of what you're eating. I was told to never eat fresh fruits and vegetables except those prepared by my guiding group because often they can be rinsed in water that's not clean and that can cause food poisoning. And I would also recommend on that note, bringing along some antibiotics and some anti-diarrheal medicine, maybe some Pepto-Bismol, just in case the worst does happen to you, because I've heard some stories, man, and it does not sound fun. Dory actually got it on the way home, on the plane ride home, and did not have a fun time. So just be prepared. And by the way, I'm dog sitting right now for Lena, the golden retriever. So sorry that my lighting is all over the place. I don't have my ring light. And if you hear pattering or anything like that, or eating or anything like that, it's Lena, the golden retriever. Say hi, Lena. Say hi. Hi. I would also recommend bringing some Diamox with you. This is a medication to help you deal with high elevation. I have never had to use it. I didn't have to use it in Nepal, but it was just kind of a safety item for me to bring with me. I got it at a travel clinic in the US, but if you don't want to go to a travel clinic ahead of going to Nepal, you can go to any of the little pharmacies in the Tamil neighborhood that I mentioned, and they should be able to sell you some Diamox pretty darn cheap. I had mine with me. Our guides tested our oxygen levels each night as we got up to high elevation to make sure that our oxygen levels weren't plummeting.
Take a reading. 95, 94.
And they recommended if they did start to plummet that we take the Diamox. Mine stayed just fine. I ended up feeling really fine at higher elevation. I also live in Colorado and I hike regularly above 10,000 feet. So I don't know. The guide said that elevation can hit anybody at any time, even if they have had good experiences in high elevation before. So I think it's just worth bringing with you, even if you're not going to use it. The food along the Manaslu Circuit is amazing. Nepalese food is amazing. It's so good, especially if you're a vegetarian like me. I've never had so many options in my life. Mixing it up today, got a veggie curry. I absolutely love the food. So I brought a bunch of snacks with me like I normally would on a backpacking trip because we were hiking like fairly long days. I expected my hunger to really ramp up, but I hardly ate any of those snacks because the food was just so good. And our guide, Binod, was always willing to be like, hey, can they get like a bigger portion? If you order dal bhat, which is the traditional Nepal dish, here it is, the dal bhat. Then you can always get like refills of everything that you get in the dal bhat. So I would just say definitely bring snacks, but you don't need as many as you would on a normal backpacking trip because the tea houses are well stocked with food. Bring a pillowcase. So when you're staying in the tea houses, you get like a little twin bed and a pillow. And I did not bring a pillowcase, but I wish that I would have. Some other people in my group did. It just would have been nice. Generally, the pillows did have pillowcases, but you know, lots of people are using those pillows. I think it would just be a nice barrier. It would just feel a little cleaner to have your own pillowcase. And I also brought a thin sleeping pad, a thermarest, which I would put on the bed and then I would sleep on the thermarest. So that gave me a little extra barrier to the bed. And it also, like, some of those beds were not the most comfortable. Some were hard or some were lumpy or whatever. So just having that little sleeping pad made my sleep fantastic, aside from my friend Dory's snoring, which drove me up a wall. But it made the beds really comfortable. It's such a small, lightweight thing to bring. I would recommend bringing one along, especially if you're a little more picky about what your mattress feels like. I think that would be helpful. Next tip, bring sun protection. Nepal is pretty close to the equator, so the sun is quite strong. And in addition, the higher up you go in elevation, the stronger the sun gets. So just make sure that you're bringing all of the sun protection. So think about a sun shirt or a sun hoodie, a sun hat, sunscreen, of course, whatever else you need to feel protected. Next tip, I've lost count of what number I'm on. Even though I said don't bring a lot of snacks because you probably won't eat all of them, I would recommend bringing extra snacks. If your guiding service has porters, bring some extra snacks for those porters. So that could include energy bars, chocolate. They're always down to take your extra candy. Those guys are working extremely hard out there. I know that some people might feel weird about having porters. I know that I did, but when you go trekking in Nepal as a foreigner, you have to have a guide. It's in the law. And then a lot of the guiding services also provide porters. And what I would say about that is that it feels a little weird to have someone else carrying your stuff, right? But that is a job for them. And I was told that there just are not a lot of job opportunities in Nepal. So this is something that they can do. Some of them also work their way up from being a porter to being an assistant guide to being a lead guide. My assistant guide, Biraj, he actually had been a porter before. So I would say, keep your bag fairly light that you're handing off to the porters, but also realize that you are providing some money to them. So it's not all bad, but treat them kindly, tip them well, and give them your extra snacks and candy. And speaking of giving your porters snacks, if you are gonna bring a meat product with you, so maybe some jerky or something like that, just be aware that a lot of people in Nepal are Hindus, and in that religion they see cows as sacred, so they do not consume cows or beef. So if you're gonna bring meat products and you're gonna share with your porters or your guides or anybody like that, just make sure that there is no beef in those products, and consider bringing products without beef in them. Next tip, bring electrolytes. So like I said, it's pretty darn hot down in the jungle, or at least it was the time of the year that I went. And it's pretty dry up in the mountains, and you tend to get dehydrated as you climb in elevation. So bring electrolytes to keep you staying hydrated and well. Next up, bring shower shoes. And I would recommend that these shoes are different from your camp shoes or the shoes that you're wearing around the tea houses, because it gets pretty cold up at the higher elevation tea houses, and you're not gonna wanna wear wet shoes around. But a lot of the showers are, well, first of all, lots of people are using the showers, right? But second of all, the showers are often contained in the same little area as the toilets. And the plumbing is not super modern. So I would just recommend, to keep healthy as best you can, that you bring some shower shoes with you. Next tip, if you're a person who wants to be on their cell phone during the trip, stop on your way out of the airport, and there are 2 booths or desks where you can go to buy a SIM card for your phone. This is likely going to be an electronic SIM card that you get, and that'll make it so you can just pay a small amount, I think maybe like $10, and you can have cell service, like Nepalese cell service, for the time that you're there. However, there are a couple of different cell phone companies, so you might want to ask them at the booth, will this give me cell service in this area that I'm going to? So in this case, in the Manaslu area, because one carrier had service there and one carrier did not really have service there. So just double check with the people at the booth. They should be able to tell you which company would be better for you. I personally did not do this, so don't ask me any in-depth questions about setting up your cell phone. But the rest of the people in my group, besides me and Dory, had all gotten a SIM card for their cell phones. So I don't know. I always kind of think it's nice when I'm on a backpacking trip that I'm kind of forced to be away from the internet and my phone. And also, like, many of the tea houses do have Wi-Fi that you can pay for. It's not the most reliable and it's not the fastest. And even in Kathmandu, my cell service, the Wi-Fi at our hotel was extremely slow. So slow that it could barely open a web page. So if you can't handle being away from the interwebs for the time that you're out there, you might want to consider getting a SIM card. But if you are like me and kind of like having time away, then maybe don't worry about it, because you can get Wi-Fi in a lot of places, even if it's not the best Wi-Fi. And finally, I would say that when you are in Kathmandu, take out some cash from the bank, because you're gonna want it along the way to buy teas and desserts and snacks and tip your porters and guides and all of that stuff. So you're gonna wanna get out some cash in Kathmandu before you go out to the Himalayas. But here's the real recommendation here. Try to break down your larger bills that you get. Like if you get money out of the ATM, right, you're gonna get larger bills. Try to break those down in Kathmandu. Pay with a larger bill any chance that you get to get change for that, because a lot of times when you're out in the mountains, there's not gonna be change, because everyone's coming out there with these big bills that they've just taken out of the ATM, and these small tea houses don't have the small bills to give you change. So it's just gonna be a pain if you don't have any small bills, so get those small bills. Okay, that was gonna be the last tip, but one more actually. I just wanna say, like I mentioned, Nepal is a developing country. It's not the most modern, especially when you're out in the mountains. So I would just say to bring your patience, have an open mind, and try to leave your normal standards, we'll say, behind, and just appreciate that you get to be on a trip like this, because it's incredible. Don't get upset, for example, if the showers are cold. Don't get upset if the Wi-Fi is not working, because look around you and just appreciate where you are and appreciate that you get to be on a trip like this, because this is a dream for so many people and it's such a gift. So enjoy it. Okay, that's all for now. But if you have any questions about doing the Manaslu Circuit, feel free to let me know down in the comments and I'll answer as best that I can. But really, this is all I can think of for now. Okay, thanks. See ya.